A supply chain update. Have you seen what's happening in the ports of LA and Long Beach? Right over my shoulder here is the port of Long Beach. On the other side is port of LA. You hear the supply chain issues are solved? Well, not really. It's better than it was. I'm watching some birds fly by here. Don't want to take any souvenirs home with me. Got to watch them seagulls. But back here, you can probably see over my shoulder. Let's take a look back here. Going to do a Where's Waldo. There's still ships hanging out waiting. There's more than we would normally see, quite a few more in fact, but it's not like it was November where we had 120, 130. They were all over the place, all up and down the coast. We can still see some more a little bit farther up the coast. It's improved, but it is far from solved. There's a lot of moving parts in what's been happening with that. And you can see back here, there's a ship being unloaded down here. Turn some more, maybe see some of the snow in the mountains way off in the background. There's more ships being unloaded. You can see perhaps the bridge between Terminal Island and San Pedro. Right now I'm standing in San Pedro, great park overlooking the ports. This is a very historic space. In fact, going to do a quick turnaround. Watch out, might get a little bit dizzy doing that. But back here is Marine Corps. So this is a long-standing base, Fort MacArthur. Here where I'm standing used to have actually anti-aircraft guns during World War II loaded up here. There's still some of the locations where they're at. You can see them, what's left in the ground. But coming back to supply chain, what are you seeing in your stores? Are you starting to see some shelves go empty? Maybe, maybe not. We're hearing a lot of reports of that. Not seeing. It's interesting. In some neighborhoods, we're seeing things not making it to the shelf. In other neighborhoods, they're fully stocked. Why would that be? If it's a general supply chain issue, it could be buying, stocking up. One store that I was in, the store manager said, yeah, we've been seeing, it's been very, very busy. It seems that people are stocking up. Likely that could be personal opinion because the press, the media is driving a lot of hype on everything's stocking out. You're going to starve. You're not going to have toilet paper again. Well, maybe, maybe not. It all depends. But look back here. It's a beautiful day. It's, Santa Anas are blowing. What that means, if you're not in the Southern California area, you're familiar with it. The wind normally blows off the Pacific. It has shifted 180 degrees, and it is blowing off of the desert, so it has warmed everything up starting night before last, and wind shifted. And I've already had some warm, cool cycles. We've had unseasonably low temperatures this winter. We've had record rains, record snowpack, and unfortunately, instead of capturing that so that we can store it, most of it's being allowed to run off into the ocean because California has actually reduced its ability to store water, even though we're in the midst of a drought. I shouldn't say amidst, the drought's over. However, we had a 2-year drought before that. We cycle droughts on a regular basis, but it is not, rather than building more capacity and knowing that we have droughts periodically, and knowing that the population is growing, the powers that be have actually reduced the capacity to store water. So go figure. Anyway, the again, here in the background with the supply chain, it is not solved, but it has improved some. There's problems with being able to get the ships unloaded. Can't unload the ships because not being able to run full crews. I'm watching the birds again. Not being able to run full crews, partly because of COVID, but partly because they've been working 24/7 for months. Little known fact, according to talking with longshoremen, the Longshoremen's Union, they had their biggest month ever during the pandemic in 2020. Summer, I think it was August of 2020, and throughout 2021, in spite of reports you may have heard, they were not dogging it. They were open as much as they had crews available to open. Now, part of the issue is because they've been working long hours, that has been burning out crews, that has been increasing sickness. COVID's had its toll. Other illnesses have had its toll. So they can't run a full crew. Where they can run a full crew, they still can't do it because there's nowhere to put the containers. So think about this. Can't get the ships in port because the ships aren't being unloaded. Can't get them in port faster. All right. So not set aside the fact that the overcapacity got more ships waiting than we normally would. Okay. Even if we can get them into ports, can't get them unloaded. Why can't we get them unloaded? there's nowhere to put the containers on the ground. Why is there nowhere to put the containers on the ground? Because there's not enough trucks to move them once they're on the ground, to move them into temp storage. Even if so there's not enough trucks or not enough chassis to put the containers on to move them. Even if they had enough chassis, there's not enough space to move the containers to. The reason there's not enough space to move the containers to, because there's not enough drivers and not enough truck chassis to move them out of the port. Can't get the trains through fast enough to load them and get them out. They're running at capacity. So we're beyond capacity for drivers and trucks to go out. When they go out, the problem is there's nowhere to take them to, because the storage areas are filled up. Where are the storage areas filled up? Can't get the empty containers back out onto ships, and can't get the full containers out to being shipped, because containers were short. Watching the helicopter here behind me, if you can hear them. While the containers were short, what the maritime companies did was some of them instituted a rule that the containers, there you can see the helicopter going by in the background, that the containers had to be unloaded so the empties could be shipped back and be made available for putting on the actual transport ships that are going across the ocean, rather than sitting waiting to be unloaded at their destination. That created a problem because there's nowhere at the destination to put the equipment. So you can see there's multiple points of failure happening within just the distribution through the ports. Here in Los Angeles, there's 2 ports here. When you hear this, it summarized as one. There's actually 2 ports. There's Port of LA, which is what's right behind me here that you've been seeing. On the other side of that is the Port of Long Beach. So 2 ports, not one. A lot of times the statistics are combined for both, but they're very different under different management, different ownership. So that being said, you have all of those problems. Then once they're out on the highway, once you get them from distribution, which is already maxed out, there's not enough truck drivers on the highway to move it because of retirements, other things that have happened, particularly with liquids. You know, you see the big like the gas tank containers look like a long tube that are filled up. There's a shortage. Long term, and this has not just happened during the great lockdown. This started before the whole COVID pandemic. 2 weeks lockdown to flatten the curve that's now lasted for 2 years. So the whole thing is there's not enough people, not enough drivers to move them. There's going to be a lot less drivers because there is a very significant percentage of the drivers that are available. Remember, understaffed to begin with. Now, a significant percentage of the drivers that are available are about to be fired because of vaccination mandates. Not making a statement for or against, just stating a reality that we're going to have even fewer drivers available to move stuff that we can't move fast enough to keep the supply chain moving, to get the supply chain back up to capacity as it is. And then when you get to the destinations, the stuff that can't get on trucks, when they get to destinations, there's problems at the destinations. We won't go into that, but you can see this is an ongoing challenge. Again, it has multiple points of failure. Now there's more lockdowns in China, which are multiple cities, port cities are closed, which is going to once again affect the ability to get certain goods into the U.S. That will take 30 days plus to fill, because it's got transit time across the ocean, the amount of time it takes to manufacture. So over the next 90 days, we're going to see more problems. It's going to be more complicated. You're probably not hearing all that unless you're actually researching it and looking for information and cross-referencing from multiple sources. So that being said, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. More supply chain problems. Inflation is going to continue to increase, or at least be with us. We've been saying that since earlier this year, when it was allegedly transitory, because Bank of America put out a hyperinflation alert. The Fed had said they were going to start raising interest rates. Didn't get much mass media play. Now here we are in 2022, and guess what? Interest rates are going up. Probably going to be raised at least 2 times, maybe 3 this year, in full 12 months ahead of the time that so allegedly smart money was saying 12 to 18 months ago. Inflation is not transitory. It is at a record level, not seen since the early 1980s. And in fact, if we calculated inflation the same way that we did in 1982, it would be closer to 15-16% than the 6+% that we're seeing now. Why would they change the way it's calculated? You know, you can't compare. It makes a comparison hard. Apples and oranges. What you know from experience, from the gas pump, from the grocery store, from everywhere else that you're needing to buy things for life, that inflation is hurting you, right? Most people are seeing that. So what do? I'm walking around, so I'm keeping an eye here on what's down below my feet. What do? This is a great opportunity as a business owner for you. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy. This is a great opportunity for you to be able to scale your business. How do you do that? Well, the first is looking at how can you put more value into the marketplace? How can you serve your clients, your customers better? And at the same time, there's another tip close behind that we'll save for tomorrow and another adventure. But I just wanted to share with you, here it is live from the Port of LA. That's what's behind us back here. On the other side of it is the Port of Long Beach. You know, what's happening here in likely a scenario that is seen at multiple ports around the country. What are you experiencing? Put it in the comments. Smash that like button. Be part of the conversation. And I will see you on the trail.